Good morning. Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to speak about an important issue that is on the minds of many veterans and military families here in the Fredericton and Oromocto area. Some Afghan interpreters who've worked alongside our brave Canadian Armed Forces members in the Afghanistan war are at risk of harm with the resurgent Taliban in Afghanistan. They are at risk of persecution and even death because they worked for our country and supported our men and women in uniform. In 2009, the Conservative government established a special immigration program to patriate at-risk interpreters and their families. Unfortunately, there are still some interpreters and contractors at risk in that country. The dislocation in Afghanistan and the lack of government structure there to run the program meant many interpreters didn't learn about the program or were unable to participate. Over 5 years ago, I worked with Canadian Armed Forces veterans to try and bring some of these left-behind interpreters to Canada. This was important to me as a veteran, even though I never served in Afghanistan. To our Afghanistan veterans, this is a critical loose end from that war that we need to address. To the credit of former Liberal Immigration Minister John McCallum, he listened to our calls and we were able to repatriate interpreter James Afghan to Canada in 2016. Shortly after, Prime Minister Trudeau forced the retirement of Mr. McCallum and put in a weak minister who was a Liberal insider and close friend to the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. Minister Hussein did nothing. Nothing, even when Conservatives pledged bipartisan support to help people who were at risk because they had helped Canada. We pushed for action many times, and there was no interest, no compassion. I even urged Defense Minister Sajjan to act, given that one of the left-behind interpreters we were advocating for had worked for him in Afghanistan. Again, nothing but indifference and inaction. While the Trudeau government watched over 60,000 people walk across the border claiming asylum outside the proper process, they ignored a small number of Afghan interpreters who needed safety and asylum because of what they had done for our country. And now, after years of indifference by the Trudeau government, the pressure from veterans forced them to open an immigration program for the Afghan interpreters, but only for a couple of days. It is insulting to our military community and another sign of a Liberal government totally disconnected from the needs of our country. On doit agir pour les traducteurs afghans. Ils sont en danger en raison de leur service avec nos forces armées canadiennes contre les talibans. Après 5 ans d'inaction de Justin Trudeau, du ministre Hussein et du ministre Sajjan, c'est le temps d'aider les traducteurs afghans. C'est un enjeu important pour nos anciens combattants et nos familles de militaires ici à Fredericton et à Oromocto. I want to thank many of the veterans in this area for your advocacy for these interpreters. I want you to know that a Conservative government will always have your back, honor your service, and we will never lie to veterans, as Mr. Trudeau did in the 2015 election regarding pensions. Now, I'm here in Fredericton to pledge our support for an important project in your community. Giving the tools for success to our young people is something that is central to me. The physical and mental wellness of young Canadians will be a top priority for Canada's Conservatives because the lingering impacts of the pandemic will not just be economic. One of the things my daughter Molly and I have been doing this summer is running to a pond near our house for open water swimming because pools have been closed and her swim team has been on hiatus. For the record, she cleans her dad's clock in either the pool or the pond. The City of Fredericton has an outstanding goal to build an affordable, accessible recreation facility for people of all ages. Young people will benefit, as will seniors with active living classes. C'est essentiel, surtout qu'on se remet d'une pandémie, qui a augmenté les problèmes de santé mentale. If elected, Canada's Conservatives will step up as a federal funding partner for the new Fredericton Aquatic Centre. It is clear that this facility will have massive benefits for the physical and mental wellness of families, not just in Fredericton, but across the region. This type of recreational and wellness infrastructure will also create jobs, first in local construction, then in hospitality and sports and recreation. It will help with an economic boost needed to secure the future following COVID-19. Our Conservative candidate for Fredericton, Andrea Johnson, is a huge advocate for this centre, and she's mentioned it to me many times. As a parent, she knows this will have positive impacts for her community for decades. But she also knows that a modern, affordable recreational facility plays an important role in both attracting and retaining workers and their families in the region. It's great for the quality of life that New Brunswick is known for. This is a community-building initiative that will help Fredericton recover from COVID-19. Therefore, we will stand with the City of Fredericton. And as I told Andrea, we will swim with you too. A Conservative government will step up for this project, and Molly and I pledge to come here and have a charity swim race with local swimmers when the centre is complete. Many Prime Ministers have walked and shaken hands in Fredericton, but I will come and dive in for mental and physical health for our young people. We have to get the job done and secure the future wellness and success of Fredericton and New Brunswick. I'm an optimist. I truly believe that Canada's best days are ahead of us. Canada's recovery plan will get the country moving again, with people working in all sectors of the economy and in all regions of the country. Our plan will boost the economic potential of Atlantic communities and support the physical and mental wellness of Canadians as we secure the future together. Je suis optimiste. Je crois sincèrement que les meilleurs jours du Canada sont devant nous. Le plan de rétablissement du Canada va stimuler l'économie des communautés de l'Arctique. Ce plan va aussi favoriser la santé mentale des Canadiens. Canada's Conservatives are the only choice to secure our future. Thank you, and I'm happy to take your questions.
We'll now take questions at the mic. One question, one follow-up.
Good morning. Jacques Poitras from CBC News. Do you think an election campaign is a good idea with cases starting to tick up again in some provinces and fewer public health restrictions in place?
Canada's Conservatives, our focus has been the recovery. That's why in March we launched Canada's Recovery Plan, a 5-point plan to ensure all parts of the country and all regions recover. Jobs, accountability, mental health and wellness, more preparedness, and balancing the budget. Mr. Trudeau looks like he will put his own self-interest ahead of the national interest. I think we need to get the economy open. We need to make sure people are working and that small businesses are helped. As opposition leader, I need to be ready, and we will be ready, but I do think the economic and mental health wellness of our country should be a priority.
The Prime Minister has promised for a while now to force the New Brunswick government to fund an abortion clinic here in Fredericton where abortions are not covered by Medicare. He hasn't actually done it yet, but he keeps saying he will do it. What do you think of that commitment, and what do you think about how he's been going about it?
Well, first let me state I'm a pro-choice, and I think access to abortion services is a right that needs to be maintained for people in all parts of the country, including here in New Brunswick. I understand that is the case, and the question on public versus private, I don't hear Mr. Trudeau advocating for private diagnostic clinics or surgical clinics for knees and hips and things like this. So I feel Mr. Trudeau often politicizes issues for his own political gain and to divide Canadians, but let me be perfectly clear. We need to ensure that those rights and that access is available to women across the country, and it will be under a Conservative government.
Good morning, Silas Brown with Global News. In the last federal election 2 years ago, your party was able to flip back a couple of former conservative seats that turned liberal, and were able to flip them back to conservative. Should we go to an election in the next couple weeks here, what's your pitch to New Brunswickers to consider voting conservative in some of these other ridings that stayed liberal last time around? What's the conservative government going to deliver specifically for New Brunswickers, recognizing that you've announced the Aquatic Centre for Fredericton today?
Thank you for the question. I want New Brunswickers, I want Atlantic Canadians to take a look at the Conservative Party of Canada. A leader that served in the military in Atlantic Canada, went to school here, very proud of my strong links and pride in Atlantic Canada. We will be here to fight for your interests. Our recovery plan will make sure there's recovery of jobs in all parts of Atlantic Canada, both in the seasonal industries, resources, and also the impressive cyber jobs in the hub that I was touring here yesterday in Fredericton. And let me be perfectly clear. Mr. Trudeau has taken Atlantic Canada for granted. Nothing says that more than the Opportunities Agency for this region being represented by ministers in Mississauga and Montreal. I guess he's slowly working his way east. But it's a complete lack of respect from a Prime Minister that is disconnected from the everyday needs of average Canadian families. I came from one of those average Canadian families. I'm going to fight for them in all parts of this country.
You've spent a lot of time in New Brunswick this week, so pretty much the entire back half of your week on this eastern swing that you're on, and looking at the ridings that you have spent your time in and will spend your time in, were ridings that were quite close and close conservative second place finishes. Am I reading too much into that when I say that you're looking to turn these ridings blue once again if we go to an election this year?
That's a very good observation. I'm really proud of the exceptional candidates that have stepped up in the ridings you're talking about. Former Mayor of St. John, Mel Norton, running for us in that riding. An outstanding advocate, community champion here in Fredericton, Andrea Johnson, somebody who has helped bring some of the cyber and some of the innovative jobs, bringing opportunity to the region, and instead of having an MP who's more of an opportunist. And then Jake Stewart, I'm going to be in the Miramichi today. I've spoken to many people about that rich vein of resource and opportunities and world-renowned fishing in the Miramichi as well. We had great representation from the Miramichi when I was in government with my friend Tilly. I think Jake is an outstanding addition, someone with provincial experience and will get things done. So I'm very excited about the people stepping up for us in New Brunswick and across Atlantic Canada. And as I said, I'm really proud of my time in this region, understanding how hard people work, how they fight for opportunity. I want them to know we will fight for them in Ottawa.
That concludes the press conference. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Do you have a question?
Okay.
I actually have a question. I've been speaking to some veterans in the region, and they've had difficulty for years getting injuries recognized by Veterans Affairs. They've written to you in your past as minister, and I'm wondering if there would be, have you ever looked at that process and said maybe it's a bit degrading for them to have to dig up this history and beg for them to get an injury recognized when they served for so long and this injury came from their time in the military?
That's a great question, and one of the things I tried to fix when I was Minister of Veterans Affairs was the transition of the veteran from the military to being a veteran. And if we don't make sure that injuries and benefits are put in place before they even hang up their uniform, it does make it hard and sometimes frustrating and degrading at times for them years later to try and show the connection to service, particularly for mental health injuries. This is why the third pillar of our national plan is mental health. That was a priority for me as Veterans Affairs Minister. We expanded services from service dogs to equine therapy to peer-supported therapy. We need to get folks help and connect them with their benefits before they even hang up their uniform. And let me say again, I've heard from many of the veterans in this region. Gagetown, of course, was the heart of our Afghanistan mission, and The military families there deserve respect and deserve a voice. They will have that with the first Prime Minister who had served in the military since Lester Pearson. We need to get wait times down, more supports in place, and a seamless transition from uniform to their time as a veteran. That's my commitment, not the hollow words and lies, quite frankly, from Mr. Trudeau, but respect and working together on services for those who serve us.
So you're committing to improving that appeal board process to make it easier for veterans, no matter when they served, to make it easier for them to get access to that help?
Yes, when I was minister, I used the term making it easier to get to yes for benefits, benefit in favor of the veteran. And I was proud that we were able to, in less than a year that I was minister, get wait times down, expand services for families and for mental health. We resolved a lawsuit brought by veterans, not by making false promises like the Liberals, but by building trust. And that's what I think Canadians want. They want less of a Prime Minister who promises things for the 9th time and then never delivers. Let's work together with our Canada Recovery Plan for all Canadians and make sure veterans know that they will have a government that has their back in Ottawa.
Mr. O'Toole, how concerned are you for these Afghan interpreters? Do you believe that the longer they stay in Afghanistan, the more danger they are of perhaps being killed?
Yes, I've been worried for quite some time because now that there's a withdrawal of services or of foreign militaries from Afghanistan, you're going to see complete control by Taliban-type governments and local leaders. These people are at risk because they were seen to have been helping us. And that's why for 5 years I've been trying to get a number of them home. Many of them are brought to us by Canadian Armed Forces veterans who stay in touch with the interpreters they served with. We owe it to them. If any refugee needs asylum, it's people who need protection and asylum because they helped Canada. And the fact that Minister Sajan ignored pleas from someone who helped him just shows how there's a lack of leadership on every front with the Trudeau government. It's always about their friends and insiders. The We Charity get access. We don't support those who help Canada. We will stand up for them, and I'm demanding the Prime Minister open up the program fully and make sure we get them all back.
What are you hearing as far as the timetable is concerned with regard to bringing these people out?
Well, now there's a critical rush. Had the Liberals actually worked with veterans, with me and the Conservatives, as John McCallum did, I gave credit to a former Liberal minister because we got James Accam to Canada. He said it was the best day of his life when he arrived in Canada because he knew he was safe. He respected the soldiers he served with. There are a number of others who for years have been at fear of persecution. Let's act. We allowed people to walk across the border and claim asylum outside of the normal process. Mr. Trudeau did nothing there. Let's act to bring these interpreters back. It's time to show some leadership, and not with an hour of 72 hours for them to apply in a country that doesn't have the infrastructure and civil service to make this happen. So let's get it done.
Thank you.
That's all? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.